contribute to the community, that's fine with
Alright.
me.
We should be live on YouTube now, guys.
Hello, guys.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Hello.
And for those of you hanging out in the YouTube chat, give us a yay or an A on the audio. Can you hear both me and these guys? Because my audio stream is different than theirs. So sometimes we have weird situations where you can hear me and not them, or vice versa.
Hello, pants or no pants?
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter as long as you're not on camera.
Yeah.
No, this is something we go through on AirMax's stream every time, because AirMax, he benchmarks games on various distros, and one of the games he benchmarks is the Tomb Raider. And in the benchmark, sometimes the guy is with pants, and sometimes he's without pants. The Mayan people.
Yeah.
So we start a vote: pants or no pants.
Yeah, definitely gonna affect the FPS for the games.
Yeah. But he tries a lot of distros, dude. Every week a new distro.
Now, what have you guys been trying out for distros this month?
Nothing.
Debian.
Debian?
Well, I was trying to build my own spin of Aurora, but it's on pause until Mr. Big Pod gets some time.
Yeah, that sounds like a big project.
No, not really. I started to understand the gist of it. It might surprise a lot of people who are used to listening to Big Pod, but he's a damn good teacher. You just need to press the right buttons. We tend to press the wrong ones.
No one tried out the latest Linux Mint?
Oh yeah,
no,
I have.
Not here.
I have it installed in a virtual machine, and it's not bad. Wayland support is still not there yet, naturally.
Well, Wayland support is really not there for a lot of things. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it tends to crash a lot on Wayland, but I must admit, for the small iterative updates, it's not bad, but they still need to figure out their flatpak thing, because telling the users that scaring the users off of unsigned flatpaks like that, using a scare tactic like that, is not right. That's a scare tactic, I call it, because their wording is wrong. It's the way they put it is like, hey, unsigned flatpaks will explode in your face if you install them.
Well, you know, people just want to cover their rear ends. If you want to go grab some software that's not in our repos, just know we're not responsible for it. I see no problem.
Yeah, but they need to word it better. The way they worded it is kind of... I know that because the developer is not American, he's French.
Then you have the answer.
Yeah, I guess that's where he went wrong.
It's written in a normal speak, not in a cuddling speak then.
Right.
Yeah. It's a bit scary.
Yeah.
In other news, I'm in the middle of writing this blog post. It's about Image. If anyone uses Image, the image and video self-hosted instance, they now have a paywall. But don't worry, people. It's not what you think. It's just to support the developers. It's an opt-in thing, not an opt-out. So the instance will always and shall forever remain free of charge. If you don't pay, you're not gonna lose anything. It's just a way to support the developers. That's it. So I'm writing this blog post for my site right now. So I just wanted to mention.
Yeah, I'm looking at Distro Watch to see some of the releases for the last couple of weeks. I see that.
What?
See that we had Nobara also had a release. I'm not a gamer, so I never actually play with that distro. But you guys tried the latest Nobara?
No.
I don't touch Nobara.
No, the last thing I was testing in terms of gaming was the System 761 Pop OS, which is eventually is not using the Ubuntu. Maybe they gave up on the Ubuntu. They're gonna have their own codes, and it's been slow since then. I mean, it works on new hardwares, but not anymore. I don't know. I still think Linux is way behind. on the gaming and yeah.
You hear that a lot from folks. I'm not really a hardcore gamer, so I can't really comment. Like, I don't have any like the big AAA games. I don't spend money on games, but the people that do, I know a lot of them say they have a better experience on Windows than Linux.
Yeah, it's definitely the driver thing.
Yeah,
that's mainly because of the whole problem with
NVIDIA.
No, NVIDIA isn't really a problem. People who say it is, they honestly have a bit of blinders on when it comes to Windows, because it's equally as ugly, just differently ugly, in my opinion.
No, you think so?
Yeah.
I could see that, because I think a lot of people that kind of give Linux a lot of crap as far as like content creation software, like video editors, audio editors, even things like OBS and things like that. They say they have, better experience on Windows than on Linux. But honestly, having used some of these tools also on Windows, they're kind of flaky on Windows too. So it's like
especially
OBS on Windows isn't necessarily a great experience sometimes.
Problem for Linux gaming is kernel level anti-cheats. That's the only real
I was going to
problem.
say the same thing. Like so many games are not usable because of the anti-cheat engines. So let's say,
and
if you want to play Call of Duty, you can't.
And I've even had issues with using Proton under Steam and everything like that, with having cutscenes get missed or get messed up.
Yeah.
So there's some people who are playing games that have no idea they're missing content.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I mean, if it's not there, if you don't know what you're missing. I mean,
there are some things that
I've even had it where the colors were messed up too, or like it looked like it was being filtered through like an EGA monitor or something.
At the end of the day, we're talking about using what is essentially an emulator, even though Wine says it's not an emulator in all intents and purposes.
No, it is an emulator. You cannot have the same FPS and same quality over a layer of emulation. Like it's Wine, it's Parallel, whatever company it is, it doesn't matter. You're running a Proton, it doesn't matter. You're running on top of a layer of emulation, which is at least reduce your performance for up to 30%, at least, in the best, terms. So I don't see it that we're gonna get any good with the gaming unless the anti-cheat engines and all the games go native with the Linux and Mac OS, like OS now, Unix like OSs. I don't see it that's gonna come up like very soon, especially with these days Microsoft buying everything, even gaming studios like Call of Duties. I don't see it we're gonna have anything coming to the Linux like operating system for gaming. And to be honest, guys,
honestly, among us here, I think now there is a bigger chance than ever before. Ironically,
for Microsoft being on the background, there might
now
be
it's a bigger chance for us to get games on Linux natively than it was ever before because of Microsoft purchase. Because sooner or later, Microsoft will need to start thinking about having a competitor in PC market.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, they're gonna want to compete with Steam, right?
They will want they'll want to have somebody competing with them.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like they gave up.
For them, the problem is that they don't have a competitor.
Oh.
Is
this an anti-monopoly kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
And sooner
they already gave up so much of their unique content to the PlayStation Network. So that's like the game.
It's the reason that it's the reason that Google gives so much money to Firefox is they need a competitor to Chrome. Yeah.
Basically.
Also
Google gives money because the search is defaulted to Google.
Yeah, but they give a lot more money than what they probably need to.
Essentially, that's the
they
service.
Give them a little extra. $100 million is a lot of money to.
It's the problem that you have with publicly traded companies, because they run out of gas, and so because I didn't want to say they run out of steam, but the problem is that they need to constantly do acquisitions or do anything, because just being a cash cow isn't enough for the investors. So
Yeah.
You know, it'd be great if you found a non-public company that actually bought some intellectual property or a game studio or something like that, because a lot of them are just, you know, satisfied. But the way business runs these days, you know, everybody creates something with the idea their exit strategy is to sell it. You know, they're not creating multi-generational wealth anymore. So.
Problem is that reality is that any company that is large enough to buy another company that is of any kind of realistic size, like something like Activision, will be a publicly traded company.
Yep.
It's rare that you're gonna have a non-publicly traded company, because as soon as you're that size, you're gonna go publicly traded. It's a logical choice.
Yep. Yeah, it's just a you know, a cycle in a way. And you know, part of it too is that, you know, it's a food chain problem. You know, there aren't many places, I mean, nobody, like almost nobody can buy Microsoft, Apple, or Google or Facebook.
Yeah, nobody could buy those.
Yeah,
they're
I mean,
the biggest
you're talking
companies.
about,
I mean, they're literally there's nothing bigger than them. So
the only example of business that I can think of off the top of my head where something, it would have to be some kind of merger buyout, because if you look at the history of Boeing and McDonnell Douglas,
I can tell you, like, the U.S. would never, for example, like if Microsoft and Apple, which are both $3 trillion companies, they're the two largest companies in the world, if they decided to merge and become one company, like the U.S. government would never allow that because of, it would just be so massive. It would be too much power, too much money in the hands of one company.
Yeah. And, you know, the only time that, I mean, from a business standpoint, the only way that would probably be able to occur is like the McDonnell Douglas Boeing merger, which happened 30 years ago. Because what happened there was McDonnell Douglas essentially bought Boeing with Boeing's own money. Yeah, that's how they had to do
those airplanes, the MDs.
And how is that working out now with Boeing's? Their planes are practically falling apart in air.
Yeah, that's another topic for another day. But yeah, just you know, in terms of these technology companies, it's hard to compete against the big guys, as they say. And you know, just, you know, an upstart, you almost have to be acquired to get any kind of momentum, except for a niche. You know?
Well, the thing I hate about the really big tech companies is, they have to grow because they're publicly traded companies. So they always have to come up with new tech. But sometimes they have no real ideas. So you get these ridiculous Apple conferences where they don't even like announce a new iPhone, or it is a new iPhone, but it's the same as the last iPhone. It's just a different color. And then they say that's innovation.
There's no reason why they can't do a 3-year cycle like they used to do with operating systems and other software. I mean, I understand why they do it, but yeah, it's unnecessary. Like they just support.
No, actually, there is a reason why they are doing it. And it's actually nothing to do with technology, it's to do with people.
It's big landfill. That's what it is.
No, it's not that. Like, a lot of people forget that at the end of the day, everything is psychology.
Sure.
Selling is psychology. So guess what? If you're constantly in the news cycle, constantly doing something, you're gonna be constantly in the news cycle, which means people will see you more, think of you more, therefore you'll be able to sell more products. When you release new products, you get into the news, you get into the thinking, should I upgrade, should I not? It's all about the psychology of the customer, how to sell you more products. It's the psychology of the thing.
But you're missing the big picture here. But you're missing the big picture here. Like, how many of us have a complaint about the look and feel of iPhone? I am not. I mean,
the in-game purchase
for years.
Purchases,
It's for years. It's fine with me. But whenever I switch to, because I always get that OLED, nice metal body always with iPhone. But whenever I switch to any Android phone, it's gonna come with 200 million different screen size and screen qualities and chipset speed and, you know, Snapdragon X, Y, Z, and then plastic body, metal body, and stuff like that, which is
that's
fine.
the whole Apple business plan. They control both the hardware and the software. I mean, that's the same on the computers, the same on the mobile devices. I mean, they really have an advantage in that they really control every aspect of that product.
Yeah, and guys, Unity. Remember the Unity, that the same thing as DT said, it's Unity. You have one device that works with everything else.
Yep.
Like you have one phone that matches your laptop, it's ringing on the laptop, on your iPad, you know, you see the text everywhere. Like it's in the Linux in the server side. Like I'm the happiest man alive with 12 more plus, you know, servers running on the AWS, Amazon with the Ubuntu, and I just spin them up. I just update all of them. I install my software on them, and I'm enjoying that. It's a Unity. I know which package I have to install already, and everything goes smoothly. But
one thing, you know, I'm not a fan of Apple as a corporation, but one thing they do better than anyone else is they developed a brand, and they know that there's a lot of value in that brand, that brand name. They can slap that Apple logo on anything and sell it at a premium price.
Yeah,
they
like the latest one.
They also have another thing going for them that Android doesn't. And we should really call it their competitor Android, because it's actually multiple sets of devices, multiple producers, whatever. But Apple has the idea of being a premium brand, and the fact that Apple only sells products that are 1,000 plus on mobile segment, except I believe they actually don't even sell the device anymore. The new device is always 1,000 plus nowadays. Same on the desktop side or laptop side, where only one device is below 1,000, the lowest level Mac Mini that you can possibly get. That's what gave them the premium brand factor, and that's why people buy them, because they are the status symbol. Android, on the other hand, because we lump them in Android, everything from the €100 Chinese phone to the
like the high-end Samsungs and things like that.
Innovation machine that is actually innovation, like Fold, like Samsung Folds. All that is Android. And honestly, we shouldn't, especially people like us who actually understand the dynamics and understand how the whole lineup works. We should talk about the specific brands. We shouldn't talk about Android as a whole, as a market segment, because it's not a singular market segment.
It's not even really a single operating system, because the manufacturers, you know, do their own thing with the Android operating system, pre-install different apps and
and you know,
just ways. Beyond that, like look and feel of it is different. Like it's how it's on. Let's take a Linux idea of desktop environments, which is how your phones work. It's essentially a desktop environment if we equal it to the Linux world. We always talk when we talk about let's say Ubuntu. We always specify which version of Ubuntu we're talking about. We always specify that we're talking about Kubuntu. We're talking about Ubuntu with KDE. Why don't we specify that with Android? It's all Android. Even though my Samsung device with One UI is completely different from Pixel. Google has Pixel Launcher, which is essentially its own desktop environment. Yes, there are certain things that are similar, but at the end of the day, it's a separate desktop environment. It's called a launcher,
you know the answer.
Android world. But
I think you know the answer, dude. Because us as a Linux user, we are a professional user, so we know the difference between the different desktop environments. But end user who have $50 or $100 in their pocket and they want to buy a phone, it's either Android or Apple. They don't care about which variation of Android or which kernel, or is it going to get update or
yes
not
and no
update, or is
yes
it stock
and no
and everything else. So
yes and no.
For end user and consumer, it's Android versus Apple.
No, it's actually kind of, but no, because
I'm saying the consumer, not us.
No, I'm saying for consumer, because at the end of the day, who they ask for advice? They don't ask another consumer. They ask somebody who knows what they're talking.
I don't know
who
about
knows
that.
this shit.
Yeah.
And sorry if none of your friends, non-tech friends, ask you which phone to buy.
No.
Interesting. I get those questions all the time.
Do
Whether
you?
it be
Really?
phones, computers.
Because everybody I know has a phone. Many of them have a tablet. I don't think I've ever had anybody ask me for specific recommendations on anything like that. They'll ask me about
10,
like
50
desktop
years
stuff.
ago,
Like,
10, 50 years ago, people would have asked me if I have to buy, Samsung or whatever. Today, no, really no.
People
It's
say
ages.
I've had somebody
you know
ask
who they
me,
ask, Big Pod? They ask the guy at the store when they're going to shop for a phone. That's what they ask.
I've had one person ask me, only because I had used Android for almost 10 years and I switched to iPhone. And wow, what a difference. It was like a breath of fresh air. And I'm somebody who would test out different ROMs or root my phone, things like that, and do things. And I quite frankly, I never looked back. That was 3 years ago. And I've even developed a few apps, or published, I should say, more likely, like it. But I mean, yeah, I've only had maybe one or two people ever ask me. And I made the switch mostly to iPhone because most of my clients were on iPhones, and it made communicating with my clients and since I've worked it into my business workflow, quite frankly, I wish I did it sooner. So, but that's my experience.
That's eventually the same reason many of us using other operating system these days, side by side, because eventually we have a business that is required to use Windows or Mac OS or whatever it's in the company. But guys, I'm gonna ask you a question. Like, I've been with this company for years, like the company I'm working with, and I'm gonna open this topic for us about enterprise-grade Linux-based open source, like paid software. Like I had this experience with Odoo as an ERP solution, and the company I'm working with, they were using Fishbowl as a ERP solution and point of sale solution, and it cost them $100,000 with a non-working closed source, like Stone Age software. And I was able to implement the Odoo on an AWS server with 8 users that cost like $5,000 per year. And it comes with a whole bunch of different things. That there is, like, I think, 100 different apps on it by default, which is included e-commerce website, POS, inventory management, and everything else. I remember the Odoo since Open ERP version. Okay, I would have not given it a try if it was still the Open ERP. And one of the main reasons for me to go with Odoo these days was actually a company behind it and technology partners and being structured. It's like Arch Linux, Open ERP, and Ubuntu as Odoo. Okay, I want to hear from you guys. Like, this company I'm working with, the TotalLink, it's been suffering from the paid software and free open source since I joined this company, because I'm kind of like washing out all this paid software and closed source software, which is non-functional, from this company. And I want to hear your experience with this stuff, and whether you go with the Open ERP one or you go with the Odoo itself as a paid enterprise grade solutions, because whether we like it or not, 39% of the market share for the server is buying to Ubuntu. CentOS is dead, and dead by me. And the rest was actually Ubuntu, was CentOS based operating system, which is absolutely dead at the moment. So eventually you're gonna have like the 50%, the whole of the share we have on the whole world with the Ubuntu. So what is your stand here? What is your suggestion? Do you have some similar experience of washing out the paid software and going for only enterprise grade semi-paid version of the Linux software like Odoo compared to OpenERP.
I have no thoughts on that. I don't live in that world. Maybe some of these guys.
Well, I don't
Neither do I.
I was over my head.
I mean,
my experience has mostly been fully on the open source side. I always work for companies that tend to be open to open source.
Yeah, but
Open
would you risk it? What would you risk your enterprise business with the totally free open source, even with a good base, software like Debian, or you go with the Ubuntu as a company-based open source software? The statistics shows that 39% goes with Ubuntu, 12% goes with Debian, and
depends
it
on whether
goes,
you need the support contracts. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Honestly, I would probably go with Ubuntu, and it's not for the risk factor. It's very simple. It's a better solution, but I know what you're trying to ask, so I'm gonna answer that as well. I would always go into and look pluses and minuses of both, but in general, I would always do in such a way that how it would affect if I leave.
Yeah, of course, yeah. That's playing a major role here.
And in general, that means that the completely open variant is less likely to win, because you do not know who comes after you and how they would be affected by such a choice. So that's always a good policy to have, and I always keep. But when it comes to software that I have control over, I tend to choose like completely open source software. But the software I have control over are generally not as affected, not as effective day to day, and would not mean failure, wouldn't mean end of the world.
Yeah, I understand. And that's leading me to my second question from you guys, which is more generic question. We always talk about privacy, like kind of virus-free or spam-free or whatever security measurement we want to talk about the Linux, which is come to the less share of market, so less attack. Actually, we are not that secure too. We have our disasters too. But in terms of being a privacy-focused distributions, or Linux is secure and it's open source, I was taking a look deeply on the Linux code, like the kernel itself. I'm not talking about the GNU Linux, the Linux kernel itself. Like the GNU is the whole operating system, that's different thing, and the Linux is the kernel part. So the kernel is 29 million line of code. Which one of us actually read that code that to say it's secure or it's private or it's not having any backdoor, known or unknown to people and human? Talking about 29 million line of code, which is gone so far out of hand. Like, so that's really annoying me. Like, that's a kernel, and we have like the whole GNU thing.
Well,
like,
the good thing about the Linux kernel, though, from a security perspective, is that so many people do work on it. So many people do commits, and so many companies are involved with Linux now. There's a lot of eyeballs on the code, and you hope that if there is some major security vulnerability, somebody who goes and patches it for their specific need might come across that bug, and many people do. I mean, that's how a lot of them are found.
But is that the actual? Should that be trusted?
Well,
that's
the
alternative
idea be trusted that if they read, or how to say this, that somebody else will read the code. Is that an idea that should be trusted?
Because that's a feeling I'm getting. That's a feeling I'm getting.
As someone who was in the world of security or supply chain
that's the feeling I'm getting, Lars.
That's
like we have 29 million lines of code.
Question that should be asked, and And actually, honest, I think the question shouldn't actually be asked because the answer is known. No, that software isn't trustworthy any more than proprietary if you do not read the code yourself. And the idea that somebody, because it's open source, somebody will read it is foolish and asking for trouble. Actually, the last time I remember seeing that, like that exact being posited, was with the CrowdStrike.
Right. No, I was actually going to get into that. Let's go ahead and talk about the CrowdStrike thing.
Source, if CrowdStrike was open source, this wouldn't have happened. And in my opinion,
we had this before. We had this before on the Linux too. We had this hack on the Linux, the bug in the Linux that you could press Ctrl Alt Delete and totally bypass the login screen. It was worse than any security breach in the history of human.
Yeah.
So same goes with the Linux and same goes with the Windows. We wait until some bugs or security breach happens. Then we release a patch. Like
most of the time, yes.
There is no actual monitoring happening at the kernel level or any software.
Well, we're in a no-win situation with this kind of stuff because if the kernel wasn't as big and you could actually read all the lines of code, not at the code yourself, well, you wouldn't have all the support for all the hardware drivers and everything. So it's one thing, like Linux, we praise it for basically supporting every piece of hardware known to man. But at the same time, the kernel's too big. Well, you can't have one without the other.
That's where we went wrong. I was going to say that there are many OSs like Unix-like operating system that are at the moment living inside the microkernels. That they separate different things from the actual kernel, and they run these microkernels around the main kernels. That we should actually follow that same path, not like make it the whole thing so big that it's unreadable to any human being.
No and yes. We should move to a model where more things are modules that are separate from the kernel, which is already possible. But we shouldn't just switch out the kernel.
So basically, go to a microkernel.
Go to a model where like Windows has, which is more a hybrid kernel.
With the visualization
the type of kernel. The type of kernel.
No.
You touch me! Don't touch me! Don't touch me! Touch me! I kill you!
Windows kernel is actually more of a hybrid between a monolithic kernel and a microkernel. It's not fully a microkernel or monolithic kernel, which is I think a best option because microkernels have their own issues that are horrible.
Yeah.
But monolithic kernels have this issue of sprawling code base, but a lot of it could be, even today with Linux, could be modularized, could be removed from that main code base already.
That's for sure.
I mean, the Linux kernel, even though it is like a monolithic kernel, there's some modular aspects to it. They've kind of have adopted that kind of hybrid kind of approach to it these days.
I mean, they literally have kernel modules.
Right.
Yeah.
Macro. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
But the bigger problem, I think, it is that we're building way too big kernels to begin with. Like we're keeping way too much backwards compatibility in Linux kernel.
Well, if you want a smaller kernel, just swap it out for the free BSD kernel. And
I was just gonna
how
say
many of
that.
you? But guys, how many of you been successfully patching and modding your kernel? Like every time I go with a Red Hat and Fedora and I want to patch and mod my kernel, it's absolute crash. It's absolute crash because it's halting the whole system. But in the microkernel, you have your OS at least popping up for you. Then you have to remove the mod. You don't have to go to the single user mode and delete the whatever mod you install and stuff like that. That's the problem I have with the mod. When you attach a mod to the kernel, it's gonna not bootable.
Look, simple reality. I install NVIDIA drivers. I install some things for additional software. Or additional hardware. That's what I do all the time. Like every system I do has that. that's not a problem in most cases.
In
But they
most
also
cases,
don't
but
do
sometimes you will, you'll get the occasional kernel panic. It's just not all the time, but sometimes weird things happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you have the latest hardware, like
Well, if you got something that just came out yesterday, if you're really early on a piece of hardware, yeah, you're much more likely to have some breakage.
Actually, CloudStrike struck Debian and Red Hat in April. We had it both on the system. It's caused kernel panics back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, Murray, you might want to turn your mic volume down. I hear it. It sounds like you're
okay.
a little,
Yeah.
You're a little blown out.
Well, the other thing too with software is that, yeah, sure, opens. I mean, saying that, oh, it's open, so it's more secure because people are looking at it, that's almost absurd as saying security through obscurity, And I think that, if you have a piece of software that's open source, but it has a user base of 100 people, the chances are almost zero, but not zero, that nobody has really looked at it to make sure it was secure.
Well, it's a little bit different because that argument, as far as
honestly, here I actually have to be a bit of a contrarian, because in my opinion, there is strength in security through obscurity.
Oh, no, I agree.
That's where I was going. Okay, well, I think we all agree then.
Yeah.
I thought you were taking the opposite side.
It will always be better than if they can. Like, let's take an example of a lock. Mm-hmm. If I can see the insides of the lock, I'm gonna have a much easier time creating either a fake key or just picking it than if I don't.
Right.
That's what code is, essentially. If I see where the vulnerabilities are, I have a much easier time abusing them. And if you want examples of important software, but people not finding vulnerabilities for years at a time, there are two in history of Linux that are far more important than Linux, far broader than just Linux. Have you ever heard of OpenSSL or Log4j?
Yeah. I mean, those are
my two giant examples. Heartbleed in OpenSSL and Log4j. We all know what happened.
Yeah, we forgot that, and we just wants to eagerly talk about the current Microsoft, issues, which is, it doesn't matter if it was open source or closed source. That was eventually going to happen. There's two reasons behind that. We are relying on the technology.
I'll go even further.
Too much.
I don't think it mattered that it was a Windows thing. That CrowdStrike thing, something very similar could easily happen on Linux. That's not an operating system thing.
It happened on Linux and will happen on Linux.
Yeah, we are relying on technology too much, like the transportation, medical stuff.
Actually,
we're relying on the computer.
Actually,
we don't have backup solutions.
Not that we're relying on technology.
Guys, you know the big part. He's always disagree with everyone.
No, the problem is that we're relying on too few companies to provide the same thing. This is why competition is important. Because what if all those companies were, maybe had failover servers that were with a different product than CrowdStrike's product?
Exactly.
Chances are there would have been. But look at how much the clients of this using this product affected so many systems around the world. To me, that is inherently insecure.
So basically, what you're saying is they're putting all their eggs in one basket and suffering the consequences. Basically.
Exactly.
Essentially, you're putting all eggs in one basket as soon as you have one single system that does something, and that's what exactly would happen.
Saying the bigger
you have
picture.
single string systems.
I'm still saying
that's the problem.
Single point of failure, basically.
We'll be putting all the eggs inside the technology side, like the computer, whatever OS is that, whatever system is running. We are too much in the computers.
Give me a equally powerful alternative to a computer.
For the human brain.
Wait. No. Wait, guys. To be honest, like in the aviation industry, I've been a pilot too, so I know what I'm talking about. In the aviation industry, there is no need to run this much of the load on a computer that are patchable. Like there are boards that need a kernel and OS to run stuff inside the airplane and outside in field, which doesn't need to be upgraded at all. There is no interface of being hacked or communicate with the outside of the board.
That disagree. Upgrades should always be a possibility for a simple reason, because we're humans, and humans write code, which means we write mistakes because humans are mistake makers. But yeah, you point something else out. But it's not that we're relying on technology. We're relying on interconnection of said technology.
And sometimes they're incompatible systems made to be compatible. And
that's also
they're living in
but how are you gonna do that? Like I'm saying this as a pilot myself. There are some countries and some airports have an auto approach and automatic landing for your aircraft, whatever it is, and there are some none who don't have it, and this relying heavily on the radar on the ground and radar on your aircraft. And what happens if any of this goes wrong? We're talking about hundreds of thousands of flying aircraft around you, running and waiting on a line to land. And there is, look at what I'm saying, guys. There is absolutely no need for any pilot, unless it's a hurricane, to use such devices to land or take off from the airport. The very basic thing you learn as a pilot since day zero is how to land and how to take off. But we are heavily relying on this stuff, which make no sense. Absolutely no sense.
Actually, here again, I have to disagree with you. This is reality is humans. It's humans. As soon as humans in the loop, we're gonna have mistakes. So that's why we're trying to move this stuff.
That's not a washout. That's a washout for relying on the technology so much.
Well, here, I mean, like,
I agree with this part.
Even in the early days of aviation, and when radar came around in the 1930s and 40s, technology was also always aided, used as an aid to for air traffic controllers, because there's so much traffic now that not one person can handle all the traffic coming into it.
Right. I mean, everything has to be computerized now. It's just too much stuff in the air.
So not only that, but you have the I have a little bit of aviation training too, but I'm not licensed yet. But you have like the ground crew, you have the ground, dispatch, you have the tower, you have approach, you have, all these areas divided up among these different things, and these different, you transition from one airspace to another, and you have all these different things that not one single person or technology can manage just that, because it's so complex system.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. A pilot should be able to land and take off itself. We are relying too much on the technology. That's my point. Automation is really nice, but still we should have a cap on how much we want to make this automation happen.
Well, this actually segues a little bit into another topic I was going to eventually bring up today, is the whole Tesla and the robo-taxi thing that they're working on.
Yeah, and the new AI.
How much do we want to rely on artificial drivers, on delivery trucks, and
many have tried. Many have failed.
Okay, in theory, that's a good thing. In practice,
I agree. In theory, it sounds great, but in practice, how many people are going to die, before we work out all the bugs on some of this stuff?
So a lot of the technology that they're sort of using, because so I remember watching a TV program 30 years ago, mind you, where it talked about magnetic paint or some other kind of detection system in the lines of the pavement, or in other parts embedded into the thing. The technology for a lot of that, they just switched it from sensor detection from like magnets to cameras. So, a lot of this technology has been around for over 30 years, and they still haven't been able to make it happen because it had to get better and better and better. Well, what did they leave out now that if they would have just combined it with something then, maybe, but when you're introducing humans, you're introducing, you know, that person that walks across the
and
road, you know.
I'm not against the whole idea of the robo-taxi and things like that. I do think companies that really try to push the envelope and try to be major innovators and try to do things that other people just are too afraid to do, I think that's a good thing. That's healthy. But there are going to be some problems with it.
Part of it is the infrastructure.
But who's asking for it? Who's asking for it? Like, I have a 2018 car which have auto drive and you know, following the lines. That's enough for me. That's absolutely enough for me. And I cannot imagine a day that the same thing happens with this Windows crash we had on my car.
Well,
and
I
then
can tell you some companies that would love it. I can name some companies off the top of my head. I guarantee you Amazon would love to have a fleet of drivers that weren't actual drivers.
Yeah, because they are paying people who's actually people, and they have to pay insurance, life, you know, insurance and everything else. But I'm going to the side that as a human being, I still want to be in charge of my vehicle. Tell me I'm a Stone Age person, but I don't want to see a day that zero on my code gonna crash millions of cars around the world. I don't want to see that day.
I can tell you the very first person that's gonna or first entity that would love to implement this and probably would is your government's postal services.
Of course.
You don't need mailmen anymore. You just have the robo-taxi deliver the mail.
But here's the thing is, here's the thing too, is that we've been spoiled to have it delivered to us. It's not like the ice cream truck. You know, Amazon would probably love it if the Amazon truck was in your neighborhood and you had to come out.
I would have saying the same thing right now. It's like the consumer, like, more likely we are the one who are responsible for this stuff. We are asking for too much of automation. We are asking for too much happening at once. Like, every year people are in line for Apple or Android or Samsung or whatever it is, and they're asking for new things. Like, come on guys, I'm still using iPhone 11 and I'm really happy with it. You know, it's just work. I don't need a new CPU. Why would I need it? For what reason?
It's kind of like, you know, having maybe having three options or too many choices, because why hasn't, you know, PinePhone taken off? Firefox phone failed, you know, all these other things, you know, I mean, outside of having the money in the, you know, some people say that, you know, Linux has a marketing problem, you know?
The main issue with the Linux that for always I'm seeing that is the same thing happening all over and over again. Like, I don't remember me as a consumer of Linux I ever asked for GNOME or KDE or whatever it is. I wish the day come that Ubuntu sits and mix all the KDE team and GNOME team and everything else and just come up with something that is usable. Like, you can use it.
With the desktop environments, like, literally no one asked for GNOME 3 when they pushed that.
Why?
And everyone hated them destroying GNOME 2, which everybody loved. Same thing with KDE. You know, the KDE 4 series was so bad and nobody,
But everybody Window Maker.
You know, I kind of want to shed some light on this topic too. You know, the whole GNOME 2, KDE 4 scenario, you know. I'm one of those off-the-cuff users who, you know, sort of, you know, grew up in those early days of GNOME 2 and KDE 4 and, you know, the whole early days of, you know, Linux desktop usage, that sort of thing, you know. So I was one of those guys who, you know, my buddy Dos Gregor sort of introduced me to KDE 4, you know, because he was a KDE hardball, you know, and it was
Dos Gregor. That name sounds familiar. Is that the guy that did all the Slackware videos?
He was a guy who promoted Gentoo on his channel, you know, and he actually
he's a Gentoo guy. I thought he was a Slackware guy.
No.
A guy years ago
he was a KDE stickler for many years, and he actually at one point showed me how to install on Skype, as a matter of things. He actually helped me out personally installing Gentoo on one of my older laptops with KDE 4 on it. But sadly, I never got to KDE back then. So, you know, I get where you're coming from with the whole KDE was heavy back then, it's sort of thing, and it had problems. But, you know, I guess I would say I'm on the opposite side of the fence here.
Well, I want to interject into the topic that Hamid was talking about.
Sorry, Steve.
I agree with Hamid totally 100% because anything that's computerized can be hacked. When you're driving a mechanical car, nobody will be able to hack your car in the middle of your drive session on your way to Timbuktu, and then have your car stop in the middle of the road just because they're having fun.
Or to kidnap somebody. You can imagine how even criminals could,
Yeah, but it's harder for a criminal to hijack a car, a mechanical car on the road than it is for someone to just hack your car and make it drive to Zimbabwe instead of to Timbuktu. So because I will explain quite simply, because it happened recently with a friend of mine. They were in the south, and everybody knows about the Lebanese war happening currently in the south.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into politics, but they were going into a vacation in the south because he's originally from there. So they were driving this smart car before the Teslas and whatever, but he was on his way back home, driving for another 2-hour drive back home in Beirut, but his car suddenly stopped. It was midnight. And his car suddenly wouldn't turn on. And when he called the company, they were like, "Yeah, we had to stop the car because we had to completely kill the car because you're in a dangerous area near enemy territory."
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with being a smart car. That can be done into a basic.
No, it cannot be done with a mechanical car. They cannot remotely access
a
mechanical car and stop.
a mechanical car.
It can. Believe me, it can, because I know it can.
No, it cannot, because it doesn't have computers.
You have to add additional components into the car, and
but I'm talking about normal mechanical cars, not hijacked mechanical cars with computers on board and whatever. It's just when you buy a mechanical car from the factory, nobody will be able to stop you from doing anything unless the car has a malfunction. And again, a malfunction with a mechanical car is easily fixable versus the smart car. You have to wait for a tow truck, and the tow truck will take it to the company, and it's gonna cost you as much as your house to fix an electrical car, as we have recently seen, than it is to fix a freaking mechanical car. And gas always will win versus batteries, because batteries, if you're not near I don't understand how this is happening, but I've seen multiple electric cars in Lebanon where there's no electricity, as everybody knows. I wonder how they charge their car, but we don't have charging stations. People charge their cars at home. So if their car cuts them in the middle of the road, they cannot go home and charge it because we don't have charging stations. We have all these problems with inherent problems with new technology. We are trying to adopt them way before we are ready.
Yeah, that's my point. Like the last car I brought is 2018, because all I'm seeing in the current cars, even the brand I like, is just a big iPad. I don't want to buy an iPad. I want my car. I see iPad. Like the other day, my wife asked me, I'm a technology guy. I'm 43 years old. I'm doing this from age 12. I started with Commodore 64. I know every button of every computer and every operating system. She asked me to go and turn on the washing machine. Oh my God. There is 22 different keys and a remote turn on the washing machine. How would I need a remote turn on the washing machine?
Done.
You know what? People always complain that I have these boomer takes, but you guys.
What boomer?
Why would I need a start?
Look.
That's because we're all about the same age. That's why.
That is true. That is true.
I've seen many washing machines.
There was a chicken fire that wouldn't start up unless it was connected to the internet. You couldn't.
But I've complained. I don't need my microwave to have Wi-Fi, right? I don't need a tablet interface on my refrigerator. I don't need all that.
The guy came on my house to install a doorbell ring with a camera on it. Okay, and you don't believe me, guys. I have a software now on my phone for my door camera, which is also come with the subscriptions, as well as I have an eagle eye and motion detector. And I don't need this stuff. I just ask for a simple doorbell camera that rings, and I can check who is on the door. I don't need the eagle eye. I don't need a sensor for motion detection or anything else.
Every single
I
lighting device you buy now, whether it be something like a ring cam or an outside LED light or even indoor floor lamps, they all come with mobile apps to operate them.
Yeah, mobile apps, but they have to be connected to the internet.
I don't know what are you guys buying. I don't know what are you guys buying.
Yeah, but for example, ring bells were banned in Dubai for a certain period. They were banned because they were sending your video feed to the wrong people. They were banned from being sold because, like, let's say, for example, Hamid receives a guest, and instead of him seeing who the guest is on the other side of the door, I would see it because they were sending the feed to the wrong people.
Right.
We don't need that kind of stuff in our life.
I still cannot believe myself the other night that there was a remote start on my washing machine. Like it's a car in the winter, I want to turn it on before, to be warmer. Why would I need a internet connected remote start on my washing machine? How would I use and benefit from that? I mean, what's the reason?
It's just this is how they convince you. This is how they convince you. They tell you, "Oh, it's so you know when you're if you're on an errand or you're in a supermarket, your washing machine will be able to tell you, communicate to you that it's out of detergent, that it's out of this."
That's what I want to do. I want to be like shopping at Walmart and pull up my phone and see if my appliances are running. Yeah, they're still running.
Exactly. or they're like a needy girlfriend, and they want
actually.
Guys, the same thing goes. My point of whole talking about this whole thing is that the same thing goes always for me. I'm not talking about any of you or any Linux user. For me, it is always goes with the Linux too. I never ask for KD. I never ask for GNOME. I never ask for 2,100,000 different window manager. I know the difference is good, and I never ask for so much distros. While only 2 or 3 of them actually works, like Papa OS for gaming, for example, or Ubuntu or Debian, or Arch in some sizes.
Nobody asks for Wayland. Nobody asks for Pipewire. Nobody asks for Systemd. Nobody asks for Snap. Nobody asks for Flatpak.
I never asked for damn Systemd. Who invented the Systemd? I never asked for it.
You never asked for it, and that's. I'm gonna posit you a scenario, and I want you all to think really hard, especially those you who say I never asked for X. I'm gonna give you a scenario. Okay, from this point forward, for the next 10 years, nobody innovates.
Yeah, thank you very much. We already have enough.
What will happen? Stagnation.
Yeah.
And nothing new will be created.
Everything would work. Believe me, my man.
No,
everything
actually,
would
no.
Work.
No, actually, no.
Big Pod, you're like my brother.
Then you are not agree with do not touch anything that is already running. Like
actually do not. Actually, do not agree with that.
Yeah.
So, of course.
So because you are the whole problem to this conversation. Because when my 20 years old car is still working, which is a mechanical car, I don't want to be touched. I don't want to be touched because it's already working.
You know what? I think what you're saying there, Hamid, is not quite right, because I think even though we say we don't want some of this innovation, it's not really true.
Everything
we
has
just
a
want the innovation that we want.
improvement.
Like we have our desktop environments that we like, and that's fine if they improve on that, because that's the stuff I'm interested in. That's the stuff I like. It's the stuff that doesn't interest me at all. That's the problem.
But it is.
That's a
if I invent something that make your life miserable, compare the older version, would you accept that?
Well,
that's my point.
No, but that's the
like GNOME 2 is there,
the
and I introduced GNOME 3. Systemd is not there, and no one asked and needed
Thank
Systemd.
you.
And the Systemd is there. Why? What's the reason?
I still have to. Does anybody know who invented GNOME 3? Because I would like to shake that man's hand or women's hand or their hand.
You want to shake his hand?
His, her, theirs hand, because sorry, but GNOME 2 is, how to say this to not insult the person who created it. I'm not going to say because I absolutely hated it.
Chances are the person behind GNOME 3 is the same person behind GNOME 2.
Okay, then I'm going to consult them and congratulate them.
Not only that, but that was the biggest.
GNOME 3 is one of the best experiences you can have on Linux.
I will say this.
But for that, you had to have few. But for that, you had to have few missteps. Yeah, but for that to get to where it is today, you had to innovate. They had to do changes. They had to make few fuck-ups.
That's all the thing wrong with their idea. Before releasing something, that's what makes Odoo and OpenERP. That's what makes us Linux desktop and Microsoft. First, do your homework, test it, and then release the innovation. That's all the wrong thing with us. Like,
well, it's different.
We are the guinea pigs.
We're the beta testers in open source.
We're the guinea pigs.
Well, here's
exactly,
the thing
DT. We are the beta tester for Red Hat. We are a beta tester for Ubuntu. We are just a beta tester for everything happening in the world.
Enterprise
and we are the ones
you would be right
with the time.
Sorry, there has to be a price for getting it for free. That's the reality situation.
So we are.
If it's for free, you're the customer. I don't care.
So you are the product.
Yes.
So you are the product.
If it's free, you're the product. Sorry. And everything has a price. No matter how much it's free, it still has a price. Sorry.
Yeah, we are the price. We are the price.
I agree with
that's my issue mainly. That's my issue. That's why I'm telling you we don't need the system D, because we are paying the price here while everything goes forward. Like
actually,
why am I against it?
System D
and
is
I'm agree. Yeah, I know you are disagreeing with everyone. But what I'm trying to
I have no problem with System D. When I was running through my list of things we didn't ask for, I have no problem with System D or Pipewire or Snaps or Flatpak. Like all that stuff I named, I have no problem with them. But I know people do complain, hey, I didn't ask for this stuff. Yeah, so that's why I threw those out there.
The problem is whether it's forced on you or not.
And
here's nothing is there's nothing is forced on you.
Never, unless it's your government.
But I mean,
my washing machine being forced on me, and I don't want the remote control on it.
Why did you buy then? Why did you then buy it?
Look, I didn't ask for a snap package. That's a Firefox taking 700 megabytes of my disk space. I didn't ask for 700 megabytes of my disk space for my Firefox browser.
Then you would be using Microsoft Edge.
Well, that's the whole point. That's my whole point.
No. I'm gonna say one thing.
Chrome or something else. Reality is, that wasn't Canonical's idea. You would be using something Chrome. You'd be using because there would be no Firefox.
I'll cancel my internet before I use Edge.
But here's the thing.
There would be no Firefox if it wasn't a snap. That's not a joke. That's a simple reality. What happened?
Yeah, but here's the thing.
There'll be a different browser.
Yeah, but here's the thing. For example, you know how I attack things by I shouldn't force anything on the user. So I took it from the perspective of prompt the user for everything. Let the user select everything. That way, I'm not forcing anything on them. You know what I get for this? From the same people who told me exactly, we don't like anything forced up on us, so please give us the choice. I gave them the choice, then they attacked me, telling me, hey, that's too many prompts.
My friend, we are, as a Linux user, was sold to this idea that we are not gonna ever being forced to use anything. Forced to use the kernel with the 29 million line of code, forced to being used a snap package for Firefox, and forced not to distro hop because some guy decided to moving forward use a snap forced on us. So
I think
that's
it's
my whole point.
I disagree.
Like who? Yeah, I know you disagree. That's nothing new.
It doesn't make you big fun if you don't disagree.
Like who asked?
Have better opinions, and I will not
who asked
disagree.
Gentoo to be closed source?
I think the issue is default. I misspoke when I said about being forced to. I was saying, what's used by default. That's what I meant. And then just real quick, so I agree with Big Pod that GNOME 3 is not bad, but the missteps were so bad in the beginning of it, and it was introduced around the time that the Metro UI tried to be forced upon Windows users, where everything was being forced to tablets. But that was the biggest. But that was the biggest advertisement for Mate.
Yes.
Yeah. I know.
I would like to play.
Which then bringing the case up that I wish that the day come that all these differences goes apart and we finally come up with a single UI that is absolutely work.
Okay,
I'm standards. Yeah, you're not gonna get that unless
Never.
No, but here's another thing. I would like to play the devil's advocate here. That's the first time for me, so I don't know if I'm going to be successful at it.
I've been playing one all the time.
I'm going to play the devil's advocate. You know that everything that's forced on us by Ubuntu, by Canonical.
Oh, there we go with the force. You're not forced.
No.
You can't say you're forced to do anything.
Okay.
Unless somebody's putting a gun to your head, you don't have to use anything.
Thank you for ruining it for me, DT, but that's what I wanted to say. We're never forced with anything. Those are the defaults that distros come with, but we are still free to switch to anything else. That's the freedom that Linux provides.
Yes, I agree with you. But then you need to go ahead and uninstall whatever desktop environment you have or the packaging system you have that you don't like it. That's good. That's
I heard these same arguments with all the Debian guys when Systemd came around, and then some of them got butthurt and created Dev1. It's because Systemd was forced on them. Well, no, it wasn't. You're not forced to use Debian. You're free to go fork it and create your own distribution, which is what they did.
Yeah.
You were fine to do that.
Okay,
this is the beauty of Linux. Good luck doing that with Windows.
Something else to mention that is we're forgetting. As soon as you take someone else's project, someone else's product, and start using it, you accept, whether or not you like it or not, you accept that if they make changes, you have to be fine with them, because at the end of the day you're using someone else's product.
That is what I call the virtual agreement.
You know who's been getting it right lately though? Windows, because Windows finally added the sudo command. I don't know if you've been using
that doesn't work.
Whatever. I still don't use it, because the reality is if I want to do something in administrator, I just right click.
But the sudo command on Windows is broken into a million pieces, so it barely functions. So.
What do you mean broken?
It doesn't do everything. Sometimes it crashes. Sometimes it just doesn't. You run something with sudo, it fails. Sometimes you run sudo, it tells you sudo command not found.
But it's moving forward, like the winget. So
that's the same. You know, but Windows is adapting or adopting a lot of open source kind of ideas. I mean, obviously they see what the Unix-like operating systems have been doing for years. Now we need a central repository of packages. We need a good shell, not the crappy shell we've been shipping with. It's actually, we need the bash shell. Is essentially
they're adopting while adding their crap on top of it.
Well, they already have a repository. It's called the Windows Store.
Yes.
Well, Winget, when you use Winget, all Winget is doing is instead of you going to the website and downloading the exe setup file, it's just downloading the setup file for you and running it for you, so you don't have to waste time double-clicking on it.
Microsoft
like wget,
or accessing Microsoft Store and all that.
It bypasses. That's another thing that I found interesting. When you buy those new laptops with AI in them, the new one,
Copilot Plus,
the Copilot, the Copilot laptops, because they're running on ARM, some applications like Apple Music, for example, you can't download it from the store, but it runs on ARM still because they didn't vet it yet. It tells you cannot download it from the store. Still, you can go to Uniget UI. Which is a UI for Winget. You just download it from there. It will run. It will install. It will function just normally. But because they didn't vet it, Microsoft didn't vet it. That's why it doesn't show in the Microsoft Store.
One thing I think Windows should do, since they're adopting a lot of things from Linux and BSD and other operating systems, is now that Linux is so heavily focused on these containerized package formats like Flatpak, Snap, and app images, I think the update process for software on Windows has always been a mess because, you know, you got to go and update individual programs. If they just adopted something like a Flatpak or an app image or whatever format they want to go, it'll be their own proprietary format. I think it would help.
It's a winget. If you
winget, you can run winget update.
without-
It will update everything.
And it will just update everything that you
Yeah,
install through
everything.
WinGet.
Yep.
Yeah,
But reality
everything, even
is-
the unknown application.
Yeah, does all that for you.
Yeah, but can you
just-
install everything through WinGet?
Yes, every
Everything
software
is available
you name it, yeah.
in their repository, but basically everything got
But
everything.
you just run
when you
winget
want to
update. It will
update,
update.
but when you want to update, it doesn't matter if you install by the winget or not. Like you can run the winget and it's
Yeah,
gonna
okay.
update the Windows and all the software you already installed with different repository or as a
Oh yeah, you can
If
update
If it has
.NET
it in a
frameworks and
repository, if
everything.
it can detect it, it will work because at the end of the day, it's hooked up into
like
Windows.
all my software, even the Adobe one, the Braintree ones, everything goes updated.
Yeah,
when I
this
run
is
the
what
winget.
Chris Titus Tech uses in his toolkit. He uses Winget or Chocolatey to update to download or update all the applications on your system.
Like
Yeah,
all the
just-
browser, everything.
Yeah.
Honestly, I still don't use Winget. I just install stuff normally.
Yeah, we know everything. Is there.
not because it's just honestly, I'm gonna be completely honest. When I install things on Windows, because I still use Windows for two things, I already know where to go and where to download, and I can do that in my sleep.
Yeah, Big
You can
Pod.
trust
You
the
are
source.
unique in this aspect, but the regular
And-
when we talk about regular users who fumble around on any OS, Windows, Linux, Mac OS, it doesn't matter. They fumble around because all they want is to run their browser, open YouTube,
And
read
the
the
regular user
news.
shouldn't be exposed to a command line.
Yeah, and remember
any
one
kind.
thing. Still today, when I run the winget to update all my software at one command, it's really more convenient for me to open the Firefox, check for update, and install the update and restart the Firefox. So that command gonna really be a relief for
Yeah,
me.
but
That's less overhead.
for old people who just want to read the news and everything, they
Boomers.
want
Yeah.
a simple way. That's why I recommend UniGet to those people. Just open it whenever you
Yeah.
see an update,
Great,
click
yeah.
update, and it'll do
Yeah.
everything for you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're
It
talking
needs to
about
have
us
a-
versus them.
Or
But can we admit? Can we all agree at least? Yeah, I know a lot of people have a problem with all these packaging formats on Linux, but can we just agree that just package management on Linux is so much better than Windows?
Yes,
It's beautiful.
It really is.
It's
But we
beautiful.
complain
It's-
about it, but we sit here and argue about it all the time, and it's so much better than what's going on Windows, and we kind of forget that. Sometimes we lose sight.
Yeah,
it-
unless
it's
you
beautiful.
install
Installation
Gentoo and
installation
Oh, God,
experience
Gentoo.
is
I
better in
I
theory.
rarely ever have an issue installing something on Windows unless there's a the C or
Yeah.
the runtime.
Yeah,
it's not. It's less of
No.
a problem now
Yeah.
than it used to be. But
Yeah,
You know.
Gentoo as a guy who's installed it, I don't know how many freaking times. You know, I mean, Derek can attest to this. I'm sure, right, Derek?
But for Gentoo,
Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause,
yeah.
You know, I've
I'm
installed Gentoo, like Spatcher used to say. I'm one of those guys who's installed Gentoo more times than he can count.
Okay,
That's
guys,
true, isn't it, Derek?
about the package
well,
management.
I've set through a few of them with you.
Yes, far too many to count. But long story short, you know, Gentoo has gotten binary packages now, but the one that I'm
Yeah.
anxiously waiting for is Chromium. For crying out loud!
They don't have that as a binary yet.
They've not, no. And for the love of God, please, any Gentoo devs who watch this stream, make freaking
Please
GT
don't do
Web
that.
Engine a freaking binary, for
Yeah,
Christ's
please
sake.
don't do that because the whole point of Gentoo is being a text-based, not
Right.
the
Right.
binary.
Well,
Right.
I mean,
If you
they
want-
define their own
but
existence.
but nobody that runs Gentoo compiles their kernel. They're
No,
lying if they
yeah.
say
no, they
do.
don't.
Yeah,
You know,
they don't.
they do one of two things, Hamid. They make a
Yeah, I know, my
Gen-
friend, but the Gentoo is equal to non-binary, and when they are binary, then always right now it's
Right.
like
I
all
mean,
other
you know,
operating
they-
system. Go use Arch. Why even Gentoo?
Right.
What's the point?
Well,
I
you
mean,
can
well, the
go
thing
grab
is,
Chromium
you
from
know,
FlatHub.
Yeah.
Well,
Why
Chromium.
not?
Well, here's the thing. My friend Imolo from the Gentoo Discord has said that there is somebody in the Gentoo community who is working on a Chromium binary, and the thing is, he's not giving me any further information
Ben.
other than
Again,
it's
you bring me this
built.
question. You bring me this question, Ben. The Gentoo was the flagship of the non-binary OSs for us.
Right.
Okay? No, it's binary. Okay, thumbs up, binary. Okay, fine, everything else. But if it's binary now, okay, why not go with the Arch? Why not go with Debian? Why not go with Debian rolling release? Why not go with the Ubuntu? What's the reason you're keeping you?
Well, it's still unique in that there's very few distributions that are both source-based and binary-based. So
they're playing both sides.
They're not 100%. They're not going 100% binary. That's not what I'm saying. They're just,
but they're playing both sides now. So
they're playing both sides of the same.
They're wishy-washy.
They're playing the same side of the coin.
It probably comes down to the fact that it just likes a little bit of frustration and pain in his life, right?
And guys, the question: while we are loving the Linux package management, I've been in a situation that was installing a software that then required a WK toolkit for PDF generation, which that specific version of the software needed a version of the OpenSSL, which wasn't in the current version of the OS. Then I had to go and download that from the old OS repo and then compile it here. Then compile
the old dependency
issue. Dependency hill is what we call it.
Dependency hill.
Rabbit hole, so to speak.
That's why Flatpak always win.
That's where I was going to go with it. That's why containerized packages.
That's why.
But containerized packages are not covering the enterprise market. Like this enterprise software, they are not all into flat.
Yeah, they're more into the regular end user. They target the regular end user rather than server environments.
Like the only thing I got from the Udo team was a deb file, and that deb file initially breaks the installation first time. Then you have to do the dpkg-f to fix the broken package and then rerun the installation. That's the whole thing they offer to you, to make your life easier. Otherwise, please refer to the GitHub, download the source code, compile the source code, and go on with your life. Which is then going to the problem with the updating.
You know what you could do? I know it's a little bit of work, but what you could do on some of this stuff is just creating an app image is not very difficult. Just start building these app images yourself.
Don't use app images. I cannot support app images ever.
Is disagree.
The other alternative is DistroBox. You can
app images are great and good idea, great, but every they are not truly containerized. That's for one.
Well, just build your own app images, put them on a USB stick, and you can carry them wherever you go.
You can leave it live.
And also, I kind of don't like the arrogance of the creator of app images. That's also
guys, I have a question
but I mean, if we start not using software because we don't like the people that create it, we wouldn't use half the stuff on our machines right now.
Exactly. I was going to say
I'm not going to get into.
He and I went into a couple of discussions, so that's it's more important.
I mean, there's some truly distasteful people that make some of the best software on my computer, and I'm going to keep using the software just because.
Just don't. Let's not involve ourselves in their drama.
No, I don't. I don't talk. I mean, I don't. I don't insert myself into any of the drama on the internet. So that's why I stay above it. That's why I can use all this software. Once you get down in the mud with them, then it becomes personal, and then I got to uninstall my browser, my video editor. I got to install.
This is an inherent problem in the FOSS world. A lot of people are so opinionated that they keep yelling and screaming on social media. No, I will not touch Rust with a 10-foot pole because I disagree with the mentality of the maintainer, of the developers, and whatever.
Okay. Well, that's people that falsely equate a piece of software to being the maintainer, right? Especially open source software. Open source software is not the person that created it.
Well,
open source software is yours.
Look at Hyperland and
Bug Theory. It's there.
This is the biggest example.
It's a good thing we have choice.
Yeah, exactly.
It is.
Guys,
this is the freedom we get.
Ago,
this is the freedom we get with Linux.
Yeah.
Question for you. A few years ago, I had a software to use. It was from the SUSE, the OpenSUSE. Yep. It was OpenSUSE Studio, which will let you to eventually create your own distribution of Linux, like a studio based GUI based with your own kernel and a startup logo and everything else. Do we have an equivalent of that anymore in the Linux world?
On Arch, they were working on one, but they stopped.
No, nobody. There's still believe SUSE Studio still exists.
Yeah, the SUSE Studio. I think it should exist.
Red Hat
really nice thing
image
to do.
Builder. There is Red Hat
it was
Builder.
Which one?
Red Hat has Red Hat Image Builder.
Yeah.
No, the one I'm talking about, it was like customizing everything to the download.
Yeah, but you could actually customize the distro to suit your needs with,
Yeah, you could.
Those are the two main ways today. But
I'm talking about
there was one on Arch, but it got discontinued by the developer. Well, basically not discontinued. He stopped working on it and called it a day.
And it's amazing that Arch doesn't have one, because the Arch ISO, it would be easy for somebody to make a
modify it,
easy GUI that somebody could, make some.
Here's my biggest problem with speaking of my issues with defaults and versus the idea of choice and being for it. Anyways, the thing that has gotten away a lot from in Linux is the choice of software packages to install. OpenSUSE still does it really well. Other than that, you have to go to the BSDs in order, if there's something you don't want, because then you create a problem. When, let's say, if you don't want Pipewire, let's say you want Jack or something like that, if you made that choice from the very beginning, it would reduce the amount of headaches. But, OpenSUSE still does the best installation out there, because you can actually customize how you want it to install relatively easy
by purpose, by UI.
Yeah,
Look,
and BSD is the same way too.
Reality is, another day, if you're going to want a custom install, you should probably be looking at some sort of image-based system anyway,
right?
Or something like built out of something like SUSE Builder or what's Red Hat.
If you want ultimate levels of customization, obviously Gentoo, even though
but
nobody has the time. Gentoo is where.
Well, in my opinion,
NixOS would be a great choice. Yeah,
for Silverblue based systems.
I could go as far as Linux from scratch.
Well, I'm talking about ease of install.
We're talking about something that you hop in a USB device on your pocket and go to your company and plug it in, and it comes with the company logo and stuff like this, customized with apps you need and everything else. And move on with your life.
MX Linux still ships with that tool.
Red Hat Image Builder. Red Hat Image Builder is what you want for Red Hat.
And by the way, still, if it is come to choice of distribution, for me, it's always gonna be Debian, so to speak. I'm not.
Well, MX is Debian based, and as Steve says, they've got a tool for building ISO.
I will always go Arch, because I can build it from the ground up. If I don't go via the Arch install route, I can still customize it on a higher level. But if I go with if I go with the Arch install method, I still can build it from the ground up, but with less features.
If Hamid does the MX thing, can he go with sys via NID, or does he have to do System D? Because he doesn't like System D.
System D.
That might not be an option though.
Yeah. I mean, the only time I try Arch for my daily use is when DT releases some new UI and for his own. There is no other time I'm touching the Arch. Like whenever he's having a Arch video, I'm just jumping in and
but a lot of these Arch-based distributions have gotten really good, and they're a lot more stable. They're not Debian stable, but things like Endeavor.
But I really like the Garuda. I think the
Garuda's
no. I would be the one to disagree with you here, DT, because
you don't think Arch is stable.
Arch is as stable as the driver behind it. Let's just put it that way, because it's so easy to break. Because I have so many users on my Discord. Not that many. I only have 50 users on my Discord, but most of these 50 users on that Discord managed to break Arch one way or the other.
But 2 point here. I have a i9 laptop here with the NVIDIA driver and everything else that I have to use Arch, and I have a 3 or 4 years old laptop which is running Red Hat Enterprise and SUSE Enterprise, hopping between these two sometimes, and that's absolutely fine. And mostly my main computer, which is running the Debian Enterprise. Okay, I am a Enterprise, the Debian is stable. Okay, so recently I tried to move, like it's been a year, trying to move from the Debian stable to the rolling release. That was absolutely fantastic. I mean, everything works perfectly stable with rolling release style with the latest driver and everything else. But still, the freedom that Arch gives you for the latest hardware and customizations, and create, being a creative person, like having a different, calling window manager or whatever DT does, like uncopying whatever he do.
Yeah.
But it's really make the Arch a unique and amazing distribution. Like, if by any chance someday Arch come up with some sort of installer, even as wide and as heavy as OpenSUSE, I'm not gonna never use it, because the whole point of Arch being Arch is being Arch. And I remember the first time I was installing the Arch and I was looking at the face of DT going through those whole list different commands. At the time they didn't have this even press 1, press 2, press 4, press 3 for stuff. It was absolutely texting to go through. And I was saying, what the hell? I'm just installing the OS. At least give me some pre-compiled command and questions. Even the disk management was manual, and it's really lovely.
Yeah,
OpenSUSE does rolling release as well or better than Arch. I've been using it for the last 2 months now, and it's been perfect so far.
It's fantastic, but the Arch have no installer, and it's give you all the means to start with whatever you want. Still, when you come to the installer, they're gonna force something on you. That's the point I have. Arch, you can select every piece of
what are they going to force on you? What are they going to force on you?
Well, a GUI installer. The
partitioning
is the main thing that they're probably going to force on you.
No, it has a manual partitioner. You can. In fact, I did go in and I changed to the ButterFS subvolumes, changed them to the normal folders. You can manually partition it.
They do, like the Calamaris installer will have manual partitioning as an option, but many distributions typically are only going to have 2, maybe 3 file system choices. So if you want to do something more exotic, having a command line installation allows you to actually partition the drive to whatever.
And believe me, OpenSUSE is fantastic in the department. Fantastic. OpenSUSE is absolute beast on the terms of package management, installer. It's absolute beast. I love the OpenSUSE and the SUSE Enterprise in terms of support, driver, compatibility, rolling release, installer, customization, everything. But still, I prefer Arch.
For Arch-based distros, many of them have a Calamaris installer, and the partitions. Like if you wanted to choose a file system, I don't know of any of them that offers ZFS, even though you could partition a drive for ZFS on Arch. But they all either do an extend 4 or ButterFS as the default.
OpenSUSE BTRFS, and
nobody supports ZFS properly in Linux except Debian and Proxmox.
Who does it then? I think
even Ubuntu doesn't. It has its own hybrid.
It's experimental.
Do we have it in the BSDs? I don't think.
BSDs is good, but the Linux in the Linux world, the only decent ones is really Proxmox. They have first-rate support for it. I've been using it for years, and it's
because they are heavily relying on that for the virtualization they offer. So.
That's right. Yeah. But ButterFS has come a long ways. 14 years. I trust OpenSUSE with ButterFS now, and their snapshot system is perfect. You can take timed snapshots.
Actually. Like ZFS is enterprise grade file. I mean, the ZFS is enterprise grade file system for NAS, and the server
Yeah, the
side
BSDs have been using it
visualization.
for decades, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I've used it.
it's for server side, for NAS storage, for massive storage device. Why would you need
Yeah.
For relatively
the
massive
ZFS?
storage.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Or
I've used it.
relatively
I've used it
massive.
on the desktop on Ubuntu Budgie, and I've liked it, except for the few times when I've had to prune the pools or the temp stuff, and I mean, yeah, it can be difficult if you were to use a boot disk and needed to unlock it. It's a lot of command line to get access to it. So it does have its challenges, but I've used it for a few years on.
I'm gonna throw something, and I'm gonna be on the Big Pod side on this one. What the Silverbrew team has done, the great thing that the Silverbrew team has done is give the user the ease of creating one's ideal distribution, the very simple way, because Silverblue is just based on Docker containers and stuff like that. It's so easy just to build a YAML file and start adding in the software
It's a
you need out
container
of the
file,
box,
not a Docker
removing the stuff
file.
you don't need. It's simple to build your own ideal system, but the only downside I find to Silverblue is it's currently only Fedora. I want it on Arch. When it comes to Arch,
Yes,
I'll be more interested.
that's more an implementation detail of needs to be implemented into that. because-
Yeah, but the guys are doing a great work over there, and I immediately it raised my interest. An Arch user like me, it raised my interest into getting into how it works. Maybe I might implement the first Arch version. Who knows? If I learn
Yeah, but-
enough, if BigPod is a good enough
You're
teacher,
gonna have a
Are,
very
are you talking immutable?
well,
Immutable is the
yeah,
wrong word.
and
That's
at the
not.
same time, the ease of image creation, the way it's implemented on Silverblue, because if it's that easy, anyone should be able to create an Arch derivative.
you would think, but nobody's done it,
Actually,
so
no,
that's
no.
probably
That's
not.
the case
There is a
because
version of
Million.
Tumbleweed. There's a version of Tumbleweed called Aeon, AEON.
yeah,
That's an immutable Tumbleweed version. So you get the latest rolling release, but you get updates are done nightly at midnight, and they do the update and then they reboot it during the night. And it's
It's not
opinionated. It has a GNOME desktop and only flat packs for applications. You can install things in the core utilities as well, and they set it up for DistroBox. And it's quite good. I've been playing around it for a week right now. And for people who like, say, Chromebooks, who just want to use the applications, not worry about the operating system becomes transparent to them. And they can just do the application.
Same with
except in my opinion, the OpenSUSE one is extremely brittle and will sooner or
Yeah,
later
no,
break.
I'm
the way it's made, it's there is no you basically can't customize it the way Steve's talking about, and or any kind of idea.
It's not for the people who want to customize it. It's the university students or the elderly or
if I am somebody who would be otherwise giving someone a Chromebook, let's say, or somebody who want to deploy this on a massive scale, let's say for my students or something like that at a school, I would want to make a golden image. That's not something you can do with Aeon, at least easily, because it's a whole load of Btrfs bullshit you have to deal with.
Yeah, same
That's
with if
why
you want
Silverblue is
Arch
great.
version.
That's why OCI native container feature of OS3 is so great.
I think we can all agree, though, that probably the best immutable distro is GNU Geeks. If it wasn't a GNU project, and didn't use the Linux Libre kernel, I think it would see mass adoption.
Why? Give me a reason why, so I can say it's not.
Oh, okay. Well, it's very similar to NixOS, but it's written in a real programming language as far as like the configuration files. It's written in Scheme instead of some made up syntax. That's the main reason.
So I can already tell you you're wrong.
Yeah.
Why?
He disagree.
Tell me.
I disagree because I have a very specific opinion on this.
Yeah.
As soon as you have a non-image based system, it's bad. End of story.
How so?
Because what's the point of having an immutable system that isn't based on images? Because
what's the point of it?
Obviously, to roll back to a previous generation once something breaks. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Why
not go one step further? Why go if you're going to that model? Why not go one step further? Why not have the whole thing be built for you somewhere else by your recipe, whether it be in your cloud, in cloud, by GitHub Action, or I don't know where you can set up your own builders. Who gives a care? That's
is it really all that different than having your own configuration file that would generate?
Yes, it is.
That's the guy who put the extra remote start on my washing machine. You know that I don't need it. That's the same guy.
DT, yes, it is. Because you know what's the difference? Your computer builds that based on that configuration at the time of boot or a time of shutdown. Yes, in the image-based model, what happens is some server somewhere completely separate.
A different machine builds it. I get that. Yeah.
And if that image build fails, okay, you just don't get an update. And that's where it ends for you. It's completely failures are completely transparent to you. If you add a little bit of testing to the whole thing, even better, because then you absolutely cannot have failures in your environment.
I knew Big Pod was going to disagree with GNU Geek, so I had a backup plan. Blend OS, because I can install software from Fedora, Ubuntu, or Arch on Blend OS.
Oh, okay, I'm not even going
to hate it, right? You hate it.
That thing is that thing.
They're trying to do too much.
DT is a professional one. He already knows us for a long time. He always have something against.
Blend OS has the same problem as.
I know you love DistroBox, Big Pod.
Yeah, he really
yes, but it's done in the wrong way. In my opinion, Blend OS has the same problem as NixOS. Good idea, bad execution.
How about Vanilla OS? Is that any good?
Vanilla OS. Okay, Vanilla OS. That's using AB root. It's
Derek,
relatively good, but it doesn't have such strong and ease of use capability like
Vanilla OS is very. It's not quite as out there as far as it's a very normal kind of immutable distribution.
For me to build a custom image, I'm gonna have a lot harder than Fedora Silverblue. And as someone who thinks of this as something that you would deploy in some environment, because that's how I treat everything nowadays, and I want stability. Anything that cannot customize easily.
You hate it. We already know you hate them. You hate all of them.
I don't hate vanilla. I think it fails in comparison to Silverblue.
Well, let's hear from Ben. Ben's got something to say on this.
Actually, Derek, I have something I also wanted to touch on for a second.
No, well, go ahead.
Well, you know how last month's stream you asked me about StormOS having an SSH option?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I went to the Arch Wiki last night. I was doing another update, the whole shebang for this month, etc. And so I thought about it, and I decided to implement that function for you.
No. Oh, cool.
Yeah, because I saw on the wiki that for Arch ISO that they've recently shown how to add SSHing as root to install the system, Yeah. And I said, heck with it. I'm going to make Derek happy and add the ability to install StormOS over SSH.
And I'm gonna post the wiki link for those that want to RTFM installing Arch via SSH.
But you know, because again, you know, like we've talked in the past, you know,
So SSH to the console.
Yeah, pretty much. You'd load up the ISO, open up a terminal, you know, from your host, and you know, install it that way, kind of thing, right?
No, I mean, you're talking about connecting to the terminal console and
yeah.
hopping
You
to
would
the OS from there.
SSH from an existing system and install it that way. That sort of stuff.
It's really nice for content creators. That way, you don't have to install to the machine you're recording on.
Yeah. That sort of thing.
For example, compiling Gentoo on your computer that you're also streaming from does not work.
No,
don't do it.
No.
Oh,
you don't want to be doing that kind of thing.
It's going to use 100% of your CPU, Big Pod, to compile. You can't stream while that's going on.
Then don't use software encoding and limit how many.
Exactly, but
question.
Either way, you know, I just figured this kind of option in my distro would be a very, very helpful thing. You know, for like if somebody's doing a you know, look at it on camera or something like that. Yeah. You know, where, you know, if they want to show off, you know, the system and they don't want to, you know, then they want to do something different than, you know, the typical Calamari's boom, boom, boom kind of thing. Yeah. You know, I figured this would be
you ever had the FreeBSD OS for us as a video? I don't recall it. The FreeBSD desktop. You ever had such a video?
Sorry? Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
I've done a couple of videos on FreeBSD before. Not lately, but I mean, I've installed FreeBSD.
Yeah, try it. Try it. It's version 14.1.4 is really.
Did they have a recent release? I did see that some of the BSDs released recently. Yeah. I saw that Dragonfly, I think, had Midnight.
The latest version of FreeBSD, Derek, is 14.1.
Yeah, 14.1. Try it for me, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Try to install a desktop on it and let me know what you think about the ZFS and the stability of the system.
You try to install a desktop. Does it matter which one? Or you have one that didn't work for you?
No, when it's come to the FreeBSD or any BSD, I mostly use terminal and Emacs, and I'm not really on the desktop.
Me. I'm going to install probably a lightweight desktop or window manager. If I install a full desktop, it'll be something like XFCE, and then Emacs on top of it, and then
let's see what you get.
Yeah, if you know Derek, you know he will throw a very lightweight window manager or desktop on top of it, and just, you know, that's how he does it.
When I was running BSDs,
like text editor, that kind of thing. So,
when I was running BSDs, I couldn't read an ext4 partition. Can you do that?
I don't think you can.
Oh, that's not gonna,
because they still all default to UFS or ZFS. That's all they.
That's it. Yeah, that's what happened to me. And that's a bit of a drawback in the Linux environment we're in.
But the fun part is that you can read the NTFS.
No.
Yeah, that's the fun part.
Yeah.
The way to look at it is,
I wanted to transition since it was a good one by you guys. When you mentioned Emacs, I did include Emacs in my toolkit and Derek's Emacs configuration. We talked about it. And so far, 12,000 installs. Because since
Emacs?
No
way.
Of the toolkit.
Okay, of the toolkit. Okay. I'm about to say, 12,000 people installed Emacs. Emacs is a lot more popular than I thought.
Only 800 people, close to 766 people installed Emacs, but that's already a big number.
That is a big number, actually. I would have never guessed.
Random question. How do you know that they installed Emacs?
Because they tell me, and I counted them.
Okay.
And some of them
had telemetry in the program.
Only three people on Mastodon told me they wanted Doom Emacs. Only 3 people wanted Doom Emacs, but the rest of them they were okay because I offered the option to install vanilla Emacs or DT's Emacs. I don't know how many. I don't have telemetry in my toolkit. I don't know how many of those 700 plus people who installed Emacs chose the vanilla one versus the DT version. But and by the way, DT, I had to remove the EMU4E thing for email.
I removed it from my GitLab. You just need to update the package. I actually removed it that day we were on camera together.
I must have not pulled since, but it was easy to remove. It Emacs was really, it was easy to read the error log from Emacs. I found that really surprising. It just told me this is missing a configuration file. I was like, I don't need the email thing, so I deleted it. I deleted 2 lines, and it was okay.
Yeah, it's trying to pull my email password and keys from a separate file. Yeah. And you're not going to have that file, obviously, because you can't read my email. I refuse to let you, Steve. So,
oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, but it's interesting that a lot of people were interested by the Emacs.
Telemetry?
But
yeah, Steve, why don't you have telemetry enabled? Or you could have them opt in.
Well, I do have a sort of telemetry. I have... Since I have my my script on a URL shortener, the URL shortener I'm using tells me how many people installed the toolkit, because
but doesn't tell you much more than that. What about?
No, it doesn't. I'm not going to include telemetry, and I don't want to listen to people come yelling at me and with pitchforks, ready to kill me. So
I nowadays instrument everything.
No, it's people's mentality in the FOSS world. Like I was explaining in my post about image, including a payment thing to support the developers. I was like, people, don't judge a book by its cover. Just because you see a buy button doesn't mean that it's done the Microsoft way, where they're forcing you to buy or never to be able to use their software. It's just to support the developers. If you don't want to support the developers, you're free to continue using it for free forever. It's not like you're forced to pay. So don't judge a book by its cover. But unfortunately, people in the FOSS world, if you add anything related to telemetry or paywall, it doesn't matter if it's the right way or the wrong way. To them, they only see it as wrong.
And those are the people in...
And those are the majority of FOSS users, unfortunately.
Yes, and those are the people we shouldn't be listening to.
Yeah, because I don't listen to them, but...
Money needs to be a huge part of open source. Whether we like it or not, it needs to be a huge part.
It's part of life. People need to make money to be able to continue doing what they're doing. If they continue doing it for free, who's going to pay for the bills? But yeah, people unfortunately in the FOSS community, they don't see that aspect. They see free as in free dinero.
But because we always advertise it wrong, it's a free open source.
Yeah, that's another thing. That's another thing.
Yes, the idea of free and open source has been stupid since forever.
If it was really, really good and competitive, I mean, even if it's not, I still wouldn't have a problem paying. I'm a creative.
Yeah,
I get paid for my output, and I don't see why.
But it goes to the same.
But why would you pay if it's given to you for free? Why would you pay?
Yeah, but it goes to the topic like the Udo.
Yeah,
they have a paid version and they have a free version. The free version functional beta testing, and the paid version is
which brings me
what
to
you want to install Enterprise Edition, like the Red Hat and the Fedora, like the Ubuntu and the Ubuntu Pro.
Which brings me to a question I want to ask you guys and the people watching in the chat.
Yeah.
And this is a serious question because, as I told GT on before we recorded our podcast, there should be a way to monetize one's pastime. And in my case, my pastime has become the only way to make money. But how would one monetize something like a toolkit, like a script, like a service, like something like that? How should one monetize this thing? I'm asking for myself because I am battling how I should make, because that's the only way I could make money for the time being.
That's how the open source work, my friend. At the moment, at this stage,
that's going to be a difficult.
There is a limited version of whatever you do, like up to 85% of whatever your toolkit, your script, or whatever it is intended to do. And there is 50% remaining, which is actually a critical part of that software for a specific group of people who are willing to pay. Like, again, I'm exampling the Odoo because I had a close experience for the past month or two with it. The Odoo comes free, but when you get to the ERP, when you get to the inventory management, when you get to the post, then they ask you for money. So you see, the whole software still is open source, but the critical part, who enterprise businesses and people who are actually a true user. Since it's free, everyone wants to have a test drive, but the actual users of the toolkit is way less. The ones who actually use your technology or a script or toolkit are way less. So you have to identify those segments and then get paid for it.
I've noticed that the projects, the open source projects that typically do make a little money and have people contribute and donate money, like OBS, for example, has a very successful Patreon. People contribute, a few $1,000s a month or whatever to their work. But they also have a lot of people who make a living using their piece of software. Yeah. So that's the advantage of having something like, for example, OBS or a project like Blender. They're like professional people that depend on those pieces of software to make money, so they don't mind giving you money because you're helping them make money. Where a lot of open source software, unfortunately, doesn't fit into that category. So it's going to be very hard to find people willingly give you much money.
The only way to...
I can really help you on the topic, my friend. I've been a serial entrepreneurship, during the past couple of years, and I did so many open source, closed source, and various different projects myself as technology based, companies. So drop me a text or get my contact, or I don't know, after this meeting, I can like share my idea and my experience with you, so you can understand how this monetization gonna work the way you want it, and how you can target different people who are actually using and willing to pay for your software. A close example, a company I work with at the moment, they paid $100,000 for a crap software, which they discontinued, and then they are paying $5,000 a year for a whole server and the Odoo combined all together to have 100 times more productive and better software. So, there is a market and there is a target for everything you do in the open source community. Whether you need to find who you want to target and who are, you may have 100,000 downloads. I had this software back in time. Maybe people knows it. It was Open T-shirt. I built the software. I wrote over 4 million lines of code for the JS for the studio side of the code. It was a whole plugin for OpenCart, which giving you the whole online designer for ASI industry. Okay, and it was so funny for me. My software was free, open source. I had only an art pack on top of that to sell to people and the donation from the people. And there was this paid software, whatever the name of the software was, with a starting $5,000 upfront and $2,000 per month. And believe me, they would go with that. That's the mindset of the people. That's a mindset.
You need a corporate sponsor, Steve.
Yeah. And someday I said that's enough. I made that software and open source, very limited, then SaaS-based online T-shirt designer and ASI industry designer software, and I made so much money from that. Okay, so this is how you can figure everything else, because in some point people have to pay for what they get, otherwise they're not gonna take it seriously.
And I will give an example where you're right, because when I used to maintain Zero Linux, the distro, I had 3 versions. One free, which was the KDE flagship, and the other 2, which was GNOME and XFCE, they were behind a small paywall on my Ko-Fi page, where they could build. They had the code, they had the script to build it for free. But since people want convenience, I told them, if you want me to build the ISO for you and to make it available, you will have to pay whatever you want, starting $5, $6.
Yeah.
So they were going the $6 route.
and some of them were paying $10, $20, just to get something ready-made instead of them just doing 2 clicks and building the ISO.
Yeah,
that's what Ardour does with their software. As they, you know, it's all free and open source software. You could build it yourself, but if you want the binary that they built for you, you pay them a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, my friend, this is not anymore 1918s and 1970s. There is no more cool people in this industry. There were a day that when you had to build something open source, free, whatever it was, you know, there were actual people supporting you. But nowadays, people just sit there, and if you put a button on your screen and say, hey, give me $5 or ignore it, they're going to ignore it. And 1 hour later, they're going to spend that $5 on a beer, you know, or coffee. Believe me, they do. Believe me, they do. So,
I know.
So those cool ages we're talking about, you know, people actually supporting people and respect the people's work and contribute, or do this. Tomorrow, post a video. I have a sick person on my house. Please give me $2 million. They're gonna do the fundraising for you, and you're gonna have $4 million in your bank account. Believe me. But say I wrote the best software in the printing industry, and it's free. They don't gonna even buy it. They don't gonna even pay you for a coffee.
That's because business. We learned that you get what you pay for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, like, I think my repo is still up. I'm gonna share the repo later for you guys. So anyone who was interested in an advanced JS-based technology, you can check it there.
But I think so too, Steve, is that you need to develop for Windows and Mac too.
Wow.
Always go.
I'm not saying do exclusively Linux, but I will tell you, when I was publishing some small little games, you know, things that I found interesting, my best customers were iOS users.
Yeah.
And he's not wrong, my friend.
I'll tell you where you're right, because back in the jailbreak days, I'm talking about the early jailbreak days, iPhone 4 and 4S. I created a theme called Bloodshot, because you could download themes and theme your iOS device. I created a theme called Bloodshot, and you'll be surprised to know that I'm still being contacted to this day, asking me if I was the creator of Bloodshot, if I could create a new version. But Bloodshot was for $1.99. You know how many copies I sold in a month because they wanted to theme their device? I sold over 250 copies in a month. And that to me, I was a brand new creator. That was my only package on Cydia back then.
Yeah.
250 copies of the theme. I made quite a few bucks. But then they released the Retina display and everything, and I had to upgrade the theme for the Retina display and whatever, and I couldn't keep up with the stuff, so I stopped it.
But you know, part of it is the available user base, but I think there's also a model like Hamid said, is that, you know, if you offer, I mean, maybe you do a route where it's free for personal use, but you have to pay if it's for commercial purposes. You know, and
I mean, it's hard to be a software developer these days and make any real money unless you're developing for mobile.
That's true too.
Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. Like, have open source, have a mobile app, absolutely have a mobile app for it, for Android and iOS, and then also have a web application, like progressive web application, whatever you want to call it.
Build it with Flutter, so basically.
Yeah, there you go. Flutter. Yeah, build it once, right? Write it once, and then it's for every application.
Yeah, exactly. Then directly go and target different market. You need the fame, get the fame from the free version. Then you need the money, get the money from the enterprise user you wanna identify. So if you ask me as a user, as a home, like small business user, you know, up to some extent, I'm not gonna pay Udo. But from certain level up to enterprise, I'm gonna pay for it, you know, because I need that support, I need that, you know, partner company with me and stuff like that. Yeah, so I have the fame, you know, I have the fame because I'm being downloaded, I'm being distributed, I'm being talked about, I'm being used as free software, and then I have the money because I have the fame. And while I'm doing the fame from them, I get the bugs from them and fix it for enterprise.
This is why I chose. This is why I started with just the KDE version when I started, and I was like, I'll wait until I become a little bit famous, and then I became really famous for Zero Linux, the distro, because I was not forcing anything on anyone. It was just Arch with KDE Plasma, with a themed KDE Plasma, and everything else was up to the user. And to your point, Hamid, a lot of people liked that idea. They didn't like the idea that other distros were forcing things on them. That's why they liked Zero Linux, because I wasn't forcing anything on them, leaving everything up to them. They were like, yeah, when, and now people come to me, when is Zero Linux coming back? And when I made the video showing them how they can get it back using my script, they all came back flooding in. Since making the video with DT, they came back flooding in, not because of the video, because of the toolkit. Thank you, DT, for helping me put more eyes on the toolkit. But now that there are more eyes on it, they're seeing its value, because they were able to get Linux back.
That's my point. That's my point. You have to create a value and fame, and out of that value and fame, you have to then create a version or sort of a version of your software with extra, functionalities, targeting a specific range of people, like the mid-sized businesses, small business, or enterprise businesses. Otherwise, person and people these days, they rather to pay on the Instagram fake videos or spend money on the coffee, not to pay you $5. That's the reality.
Another important aspect I think we're forgetting is that
are you agree or not? First, clear your
I
ground.
agree with you on the basis, but there is one bit that we're forgetting, is that you need to condition your user base to that there is possibility of monetization, or that there will be, even if you have a free version, if you just ask for donations, you're gonna when you introduce monetization on the large scale, it's gonna be a much easier pill to swallow for them.
Yeah, but here's the thing. That's why I am really considering in the next few months, or before the end of the year, I'm really considering bringing back one version of Zero Linux, which is the KDE version. But this one will be the accumulation of the toolkit plus the theme plus whatever. It's going to be an easy way to end up, instead of going through the toolkit and whatever, it's going to be an ISO that will be convenient for people, but that's going to be behind the paywall. Yeah. Because and I've seen previously that this works, as I said earlier. They would rather pay that than having to wonder what does that option do in the toolkit, what that option does in the toolkit. I would have taken the guesswork out of everything and given them a ready-made ISO that they could use. But I don't know yet if I'm going to do it or bring it back. But if that's the only way to monetize for the time being, because I don't target small businesses, I'm not that kind of developer. I cannot target big stuff like that. I'm just a very basic Bash scripter. But I know how to maintain a distro very well. I did it for 5 years, so I might just do that. Just put it on the website. Hey, you want the accumulation of the toolkit and the theme and whatever? There you go. You get it as an ISO with Calamares installed, but everything else you'll have to do. Basically, it's exactly Zero Linux as it was, bringing it back, because nothing has changed since. It's easy for me. It's just a couple of button clicks because I already have the scripts and everything ready. I just built the ISO, put it up online. The hard work is making sure it continues to work.
Well, Steve, keep us updated on that, but we're running over time. We've lost a couple of people here. Jean-Michel had to go. Ben dropped out too. Let's go ahead and get a last word so we can kill the stream, and we may continue this conversation after the stream is over. So, George, give us a last word on our way out.
Well, thanks again for hosting. I missed last month, unfortunately, but I did hear a little bit of it. As always, thanks. It's fun.
Did you hear a lot of disagreement from Big Pod and Steve?
Oh, yeah. I mean, but that's expected. It's in the background now. My brain expects it. It's all good.
Thanks for hanging out with us, George.
Yeah.
Murray, what do you got for us this month?
Well, no one's talked AI, so I guess I'll bring up the elephant in the room. There's Brave Search and U.com were both search engines prior to AI, and they both have the same attitude toward privacy. It's privacy first. U.com had a few extra search engines, code search and things like this, and then they. So if you lost Brave Search today, you could switch to U.com and lose nothing. You'd have the same privacy as you did with Brave, but they've added an AI feature, and they've added some extensions to Firefox so that you can add it as a search engine in Firefox. So when you go to your search engine and you've got U.com selected, it becomes a prompt for U.com.
Okay.
And then so you could highlight some text if you're reading an article. Say you come across a moonshine theory, you don't know what it is. You could highlight that, right-click it, copy to clipboard, then right-click into your paste and search, and a new tab would come up with your AI telling you what it is. It works quite well. You do it in Firefox by going to Settings, Search, and then find Search Engine. And it'll bring you to the add-on page, and you select search for U.com. And then when you've done that, you'll have added it to your search field up top.
Is it kind of similar to what Brave is already doing with Leo, as far as like if you select some text, you can ask Leo to explain the text you highlight?
I don't know. I haven't tried Brave in it. Imagine it is.
I haven't tried the U.com one, so
I imagine it is. The other thing is there's another add-on called Copy on Select. So if you select some text, it's already copied to the clipboard, so you can make it a two-step process instead of three. So you select your text, right-click and paste, and go into the search field, and then up comes your thing. And there's a last add-on. It's called Print Friendly in PDF. So you've got your search engine results in there. Say you said how to back up a Podman, and it gives you 6 steps. You can use that add-on to create a PDF file and download it, and then you can put it in your documentation folder. It does a perfect job of creating a PDF from your search.
Very cool.
So that's pretty good. And yeah, that's good enough. Thank you.
Well, yeah, thanks, Murray. Hamid, you got a last word for us?
Yeah, last word from me. I'm being a software developer for about 24 years, and I've been always proud of learning 2 languages, macroassembly and Fortran. Those languages give me everything I am today as a software developer, as an IT guy, as a security guy. Still, on some level, I'm still using macroassembly and TurboAssembly in my code when I need it, especially in terms of security and real-time measurement of hardware and hacking into microkernels and the BIOS and everything else. Go learn these languages. These are really high-level language, and you're probably going to thank me someday for learning these 2 languages.
You know what? I have considered playing around with some Fortran just for the fun of it, but
that's beautiful. That's a beautiful language.
You love it?
Yeah, and believe me, there is a demand for this language at up to $5,000 per hour. It's still because there are still mainframes. Yeah, there are still mainframes. Yeah, still mainframes running on that Fortran and Cobol, and then they still need a developer for it.
It's true. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for the last word. Big Pod, give us the last word, sir.
Well, I have to add, because I didn't add before, I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to monetization of open source stuff. I still haven't monetized my podcast and still don't know how to monetize it.
Yeah.
So check out my podcast, No Tax Allowed, at show.taxbase.com. And if you have any idea how to monetize it, contact at taxbase.com and shoot me an email, and me and my co-host. And we're going to hopefully find some good ideas.
Typically with podcasts, it's either Patreon or corporate sponsors or both.
We really do not want to do either of those.
I know.
Don't
I don't like either.
Better.
Well, I don't do corporate sponsors, and I really don't like Patreon. To be honest,
do something better than that.
There's nothing. Better. Yeah, there's really nothing. I mean, the only other thing you could do is paid for. I mean, you could try to sell the podcast yourself, which some people do have some success just putting their podcast behind a paywall. But
there's also the value for value model of pay whatever it is worth to you.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
maybe selling merch.
Yeah.
Maybe selling some merch like hats and T-shirts and mugs.
That's not a bad idea. Oh.
Well, we want something more. I don't know. Hard to say, but we want something more.
We can talk about that later after this video.
Yeah, and I will put the link to your podcast in the YouTube chat as well, so YouTube can check out the No Tux podcast. All right, thanks Big Pod. Steve, give us a quick last word.
A quick one. Don't judge a book by its cover.
I like that one. Appreciate that, Steve. George, I'm going to come back to you real quick because you had something to say before we go on Nitrix Linux. You wanted to ask something?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure how many people are aware of that one, but it is an app image based, and it's been around for quite a while. But
I like it. I've looked at it before. It's a great distribution.
Yeah, I've ran it too, and it's just another alternative out there if somebody's looking for something different with the package managing. So.
I mean, we talked about BlendOS and Vanilla and Geeks and Nix. I mean, Nitrix is doing some unique things, app image based.
Yep. It's sad that it's based on Debian.
Why is that sad? Vanilla OS was based on Debian. We talked about it.
Excuse me?
It should be based on Arch.
Why?
No, you got that part wrong, my friend. Always Debian.
I was just kidding. Come on, guys.
All right. Well, thanks, George. Let me get my last word in. I need to thank you guys for being here in the chat with me, as well as we had some other folks that joined us and had to leave early. You guys were great. Had a great discussion. Also, the YouTube chat, you guys are fantastic. And other than that, I want to show some names of some patrons here on the screen. These are all the patrons, including those that couldn't be with us today. I want to thank each and every one of those folks. And other than that, guys, wave bye to YouTube. I'm the only one on camera today. Bye.